purpose of our life is not just to be happy. The purpose of our life is that God makes us more holy, more like him. And it's when we have nothing else but him, which is when he does the most deepest inner work with me. And that's when I realized, and basically I had to, from the personal achievement side, I had to really disconnect my identity from accolades and achievements and everything.
Sure. For sure.
I said, God, all I need is you.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there is a dichotomy to those accolades as I've been processing that experience. I read this book by Kyle Idleman, In My Pit of Despair. I'll call it very similar, having given up multiple $1 million contracts and choosing the life that I know I wanted my tombstone to have. And it was called The End of Me. And if you look at the cover of the book, it's in like a embossed format that's kind of translucent that says Jesus. So the end of me is the kind of the beginning / of Jesus. And so it's kind of a hilarious book. Actually, I highly recommend reading anything by him because he just uses his humor in such a strong way to preach the word and to teach you. But in that, one of the biggest things was talking about titles and the release of titles. And as we continue to do things, especially when we're doing things in the favor and flow of God, based on the gifts and talents that you shared about us naturally having them, there's not striving in that because it's just there. I got to witness this incredible artist this past weekend paint Jesus for the first time since he has ever painted. And he had a God moment and it was wild to watch. And now he really feels like his artistry is just going to be an open door for him to be a preacher. I mean, crazy stuff happens when you're in flow. But I say all of that because you just had a book, a best-selling run. I don't know. Did it hit bestseller? I don't even know yet.
Not yet.
It okay, it's going to. Bring that up. Bring that up. The miraculous breakthrough formula. We're going to talk about business principles. What's the tagline?
It is the 7-day challenge, biblically guaranteed to help you get unstuck and achieve the impossible.
So good. It's 7 days, y'all. This is a no-brainer. We must do this. You're running a cohort of people are you doing this with a cohort right now?
Yes, I've done that. Yeah. I've ran a couple of these already. Yes.
I figured. Well, next one I want in because I've got 7 days I can spare for breakthrough. And if y'all can't do the same, we're in a bad case scenario because I don't know what you're giving up for your time. But I think about the fact that there are accolades that come along with us pursuing our mission. How do you now handle those things? Because recently my husband and I were talking about how we still have this natural tendency to fall into an achievement pattern. And there's the idea of the gap and the gain and where you are. One thing I'm terrible about is celebrating. Like I feel like every day I'm joyful, but I don't sit in an accomplishment very well. I don't sit in celebration of title or accolade very well. And it might be because of the past, but I think it's really important for us to also do that and cherish that in one another and celebrate that in one another. I'd probably spend more time celebrating you hitting bestseller or having a #1 podcast than I would me, because I'd be like, okay, on to the next. And that's a practice of presence that I have to get better at. So I'm curious, how do you navigate like achievement, driving, being mission driven? I know that can sometimes people can throw stones at like your pace or your busyness, and you do a lot of things. I watch it from the outside looking in. And so I can't imagine from the inside looking out. We'll pray for your wife. How do you handle that?
Absolutely. Goals are important. God gave us this incredible mind, this incredible imagination, right? We're made in his image.
Yeah.
So when we start to get these ideas, and Psalm 37:4 says that when you delight yourself in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart. So when you think about goals from that perspective, it is important because it's a starting point of all achievement. However, deeply rooted into that, to answer the question, is we're not going for the accolade so that we can feel puffed up and amazing and everything as well. It's, God, is this what you want? Is this where you want to run me towards? As Paul said, he's running towards the goal. We need to be focused. We need to go towards that. And when we win, to make sure that we are also very keen on not just celebrating the trophy itself, but to be able to use that trophy, that accolade, to ultimately point towards heaven.
So good.
It's the number way to do things, right? And why it's also important is when we look at it not as something that is, and I get it, because when we fall into that trap, it brings up things in the past as well. But remember, we are a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here as well too. So that's not there anymore. That temptation of just having our identity tied to accolades and everything. However, is that we understand that we are called, and that's why in the marketplace there's going to be the greatest ministry, because we are both at the same time in this world, but not of the world.
Right.
And the world communicates with accolades and achievement and influence and all that as well too. So how important is it as entrepreneurs, as kingdom builders, as influencers and founders and everything, that we are able to communicate in the world's language of quote unquote success, but we're able to showcase it in a different way.
So good. So good. I mean, I think about that. Like, how are they successful? Or going back to the world's idea of successful, and also joyful, or also bearing fruit of patience, or also bearing all the Galatians 5:22 fruits that a majority of people who have somehow gotten to the top of whatever, it doesn't matter what industry, doesn't matter what you're looking at, there's a hierarchy that has been established organically through all the systems, is this knowing that you can see that, and there's that sense of void, which you experienced early, and I did too, and I'm so grateful for that. I always am like, God, thank you that I was not in my 50s and having this experience and losing my marriage at that point, or losing the connection with my kids, or I'm just grateful that I did it young. And I had to do it with my marriage and kiddos, but they were much younger, and so was I. So yeah, I honor him for that. And I love the way that you shared it. You're like preaching to me in this moment. So thank you. I'm receiving. Absolutely. So talk to us through with that. We talked about how you built up your non-shaky giraffe legs. You're now like a sturdy, beautiful, gazelle in and of itself. And you are able to teach biblical principles connected to business growth. And I'm sure your network marketing experiences have paralleled to what it is that you're teaching now. So talk us through some of the success formulas that have worked for you. Maybe give us a little hint to the book. I'd love to know more.
Absolutely. Well, Joshua 1:9 is the success, prosperity like thing that I think every entrepreneur should understand. And it says, and it's what happens is, for those that are not, just for context, Moses gives the baton to Joshua. Joshua is supposed to go dominate all the places that God has ordained. And he says, here's the success tip. Do not let the book of the law depart from your lips. Meditate on it day and night. Be sure to do everything according that is written into it, and you will make your way successful and prosperous. So really what it comes down to, the success principle, is know this, talk about this, and do this. As it says in James, be doers of the word, not just hearers of the word.